It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Well, there's been a lot of moving and shaking as far as the Razorback coaching search is concerned. Obviously, Bobby Petrino elevated to interim head coach following the firing of Sam Pittman, and woke up and chose violence this morning with firing Travis Williams as defensive coordinator, firing Deke Adams as defensive line coach, and firing Marcus Woodson as co-defensive coordinator and secondary coach. Nick Perry remains. Chris Wilson elevated to defensive coordinator, who used to be with the Philadelphia Eagles as a defensive line coach on their one of their Super Bowl teams, and was at Mississippi State, obviously, back in 2011 and 12 as defensive coordinator. We'll talk about all that. I'm not going to go too much into what my expectations are for this coaching search. I will a little bit, but I talked a lot about that in the walk and talk. So if you haven't watched the walk and talk from Sunday, then I would suggest you go do that. But we're going to talk about some of the candidates. We're going to talk about a few other things as well. Kevin Bohannon is going to join us also. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain Commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle and get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. Hog Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
I was looking at the Crain Team website last week when I did the show. They had 5,337 vehicles. Now they got 5,632. That's 295 more vehicles. If you haven't gone to crainteam.com, you can check out all the vehicles that they have over there. Kickoff times announced for Arkansas and Tennessee. That's in Knoxville in 12 days. Number 15, Tennessee. That will be at 3:15 p.m. on October 11. That game will be televised by SEC Network. That was slated for a 2:30 to, I think, 7 o'clock flex window. So it has been picked up for 3:15 p.m. And I want to mention this also, guys, because I mentioned in the walk and talk that we want to make this as easy as possible for Arkansas fans to follow along with accurate, in-depth, and entertaining coaching search information, because that's what this is all about. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of experience with coaching searches. But we've gotten really good at it, and we certainly make it a lot of fun. We've had hundreds of people already signed up, and we did this deal, 26 hours ago, but you can get 1 month, 2 months for $1, even better. I can't get this graphic to go up without my audio cutting out. But 2 months right now for $1 at HawgSports. There's no promo code or anything. You just go to HawgSports.com, sign up, 2 months, $1. We're also going to do this. We're going to do 75% off the annual subscription. So that breaks down to, well, it's $30 for the entire year. So you can do 75% off the annual. There is a promo code with that. You'll need to use Hog Search 75 altogether, HAWG Search SEARCH 75. That's not case sensitive or anything, but it's all together, and you can get the 75% off deal for the year. 2 months for $1 or 75% off, which is $30 for the entire year. So 2 great ways to sign up. And I mean, like I said, there's already been hundreds. There will be thousands of people that take advantage of this, if my experiences means anything. Okay, so let's hop into it. I mentioned the changes. Bobby Petrino woke up and a lot of people got fired. And I can't say that I blame them the way the defensive effort has been. Now, not that the offensive effort has been anything special. I do think that there's a little bit of hand in hand with those two things. Like, you don't feel like you got any support. You feel like you got to score every single drive. And I feel like that could impact the offense. But the offense, no question, has to get better than it's been. And we'll see. Bobby Petrino is meeting with this team right now. Is it 2:30 yet? Yep, right now. He's meeting with the team. And he's already met with some players individually, but there's going to be a lot of people that are disappointed. Some people took the news kind of harshly. But the bottom line is, guys, for whatever reason, Travis Williams, Deke Adams, Marcus Woodson, they weren't getting the job done. And any change that you make is going to be, at worst, the same as the product that was put out there, where they're just giving up touchdowns over and over and over again. And this is one of the main reasons that Sam Pittman got fired. It just is. Again, if you wanted to read some of my expectations or listen to some of my expectations for this coaching search, you should check out the walk and talk from the other day. I got a couple of stories I'd like to share with you. So last night, I'm getting out of the shower, and I look at my phone, and there's a call from a Dallas number. And I had been trying to get a hold of this guy who's a friend of mine in Dallas, and I think he changed phone numbers. I don't know, but I can't get a hold of him. So I went and hurried up and got dressed, and then I came back and I called the number, and it answers, and it goes, Trey Biddy. And I go, Houston Nutt. And it was Houston Nutt. And Houston had come across the walk and talk. He'd never seen it before. He came across the one after the Notre Dame game. And he was just like, man, I came across that walk and talk, and I just wanted to tell you that was awesome. And he told me how much he liked it. And he kind of was like, that's got to be hard to, be close to the university like you are, and, going to all the press conference stuff, and then come out and, criticize and talk about what needs to happen and what you saw and all that stuff. And I was like, I really appreciate that, because I don't think everybody recognizes that it's, it's not easy always to go look people in the eye and then criticize them and then go look them in the eye again. But he recognized that, and I appreciate it. And we talked about some other things. It's like, why didn't Sam recruit more Arkansas kids? And I'm just like, well, he got caught in kind of a loop, of having to invest in players that are ready to go and not being able to really develop through the high school ranks. Because he didn't have any room to not have a good season. So he had to recruit guys that were ready to play. And, he kind of indicates like maybe he's going after some of the wrong guys. I don't want to go into everything that we talked about. It wasn't like AD job or stuff like that some people might think, or getting him back involved with the university. It was just a lot of remember when. And, I talked about sometimes when I quote him and stuff, and I have fond memories of Houston, but, I hadn't talked to him on the phone in 17 years. And he said, I saw that, and I looked at my phone. I said, I wonder if this is still his number. And so he called me up. But anyway, I thought that was kind of cool to hear from Houston Nutt. Before we go any farther, I want to play some things from Hunter Yurachek. It was a long press conference today. I've condensed some things into about a 3-minute clip with Hunter. Bobby Petrino's there, but I actually didn't take any of Bobby Petrino's comments. I just want people to hear about what Hunter says about their situation, which I think was actually encouraging if it's true, because he talked about some of the things that they have to do and some of the things they have to present, and his confidence level that they will have the money to go after a coach who is competitive, with competitive prices, with a great package. He talked about NIL, how there's, I guess, some misnomers out there about where they are in NIL. He talks about that. He talks about, the need for a scouting department and how that's going to be rolled into everything. And Sam Pittman not having really the full resources that he needed to compete in this conference, and explain that a little bit farther. I know a lot of people are frustrated with Hunter. He was asked about, his job security and whether he's going to be the guy to make the hire. He says there's no indication to him, at least, that anything's going to change there. But let's just play the clip. It's about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Let's go.
Coming out of our board meeting last Friday, I received kind of a charge from our board to come back to Chancellor Robinson and then with a plan of how we can increase the head coaches pool, the assistant coaches pool, the support staff pool, the operational pool moving forward, and how we would support the increases in that. And I'll have an opportunity to do that in the next couple of weeks, and I truly believe that we will have everything that we need in place to attract the best head coach for our program and give that head coach the resources they need to be competitive in the SEC. You have to have someone first and foremost that's a proven winner and proven that they can build a program, someone that can come in and establish what your culture is going to be as a football program on both sides of the ball, in special teams. You want somebody that can kind of that has some energy and can re-energize this program and re-energize our fan base, ties to what it means to compete within the Southeastern Conference, I think is really key. But I think, probably the keyest thing is they've got to be able to embrace and adapt to what is a changing environment in college athletics, and to be able to have some advanced scouting that's really in depth, and you can go head first into the transfer portal, and that's the way you're going to build a program quickly. And the days of bringing in 25 or 30 freshmen and thinking that you can turn a program with freshmen, they're going to go by the wayside, especially in football. And you've got to be able to really use that transfer portal, and that takes some in-depth advanced scouting across Division II, FCS, G6, and even Power 4, so that when that transfer portal opens up, you're ready to hit the ground running, and we're going to provide that staff with the resources they need to do so. I think there's some misinformation out there about how competitive we are going to be moving forward in the NIL space. We've had over $500,000 of agreements that have gone through the NIL Go system by way of our student athletes. It's roughly $15,000 per agreement. The national average is about $5,800. We have an NIL strategist within our front office. Our team at Learfield is actively soliciting opportunities for our student athletes to have NIL agreements. We're at full level, the cap from a revenue sharing standpoint. So whoever the next football coach is going to have the resources from a revenue sharing percentage and NIL to compete within this conference. Absolutely, money will be a factor at some point in time because there's limited resources. But I think we saw with the hiring of Coach Calipari and what we were able to do there with him and his staff and what that's meant to our basketball program. I think we can build a similar model within reason for our football program. I think there'll be people across this state that will step up for us. I think there's an opportunity for the university to potentially help us, and we're continuing to look at new ways to generate revenue within our athletic program. Our football program is far too important to the overall health of our athletic program for us to take it for granted. I think when we're able to put in front of prospective coaches what the financial package for our program will be moving forward, I think that will alleviate any of their concerns about that.
Hunter Yurachek on this coaching search. I mean, a lot of promising words talking about the NIL package, the package overall that they can put in front of a potential candidate. And, it's going to be interesting to see Bobby Petrino. I mean, it's wild, again, that he is going to be roaming the sidelines as the interim head coach at the University of Arkansas. What does he have to do to win the job? I know that there are people that support him in Little Rock and other places, but what does he have to do to win the job? Does he have to take this team to a bowl game? When you look at the schedule, that's going to be awful challenging. And you almost think like, oh, if he can navigate this schedule and get them to bowl eligibility, that would probably be pretty impressive. We'll see. When we're living in it, I say that all the time. You can project all you want, but when you're actually in the moment living in it, how do you feel about it? I want to tell you about our friends at Walker Brothers, 577 Millsap Road, suite number 6 in Fayetteville. Been there a long time. A brand new location at 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101. Peter Millar. They've got Peter Millar with the Crazy Hog logos, and you can get the curly tail logo, which is the Walker Brothers logo, the hog with the curly tail. You've seen it, I'm sure, on Peter Millar, Johnny O, Horns Legends, Divot Sportswear, and other brands. Lot of really nice menswear. Like, there is nothing like Walker Brothers in the state of Arkansas. So Dress like a grown-up. Go check out Walker Brothers. There's just no places to find men's clothing, like high-end, nice men's clothing. Get yourself tailored for a nice new suit. Get you some cologne. Get out on the prowl. You know what I'm talking about. Check out our friends at Walker Brothers. That new store in Rogers is really outstanding. Okay. So I've heard a lot of different things, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. We've got VIP premium information. People can go. We've laid out a great deal for people to go sign up at HawgSports, and you can get all this information in depth on HawgSports. So we're not going to just like put everything out on the podcast. We're just not doing that. But we are going to keep it entertaining and put out some stuff. We've heard a lot of stuff about, Rhett Lashley thinking that, Arkansas isn't a place where he can win. I've heard that. I've also heard people say stuff like, if a package was put out in front of him, yeah, he would be very interested in it. He still has family here. I know Rhett's mother, Judy, but I haven't seen her in 10 months. I don't have like a close relationship, but I know she lives up in Northwest Arkansas. She's friends with some people that I'm friends with, kind of mutual friends kind of a situation. I know that she's friends with like the Lindsays, who are obviously, big Arkansas people, though Drake does go to Minnesota, John David's son, but, they're big Arkansas people. Last Arkansas basketball practice I saw, which was I just thought was for media only. Lindsay's there, so they're big Arkansas people, and I know that there are other connections with people that are big Razorback boosters, and Rhett's family also. But he's a name that's been brought up a little bit, and there's been some talk that he wouldn't come back to Arkansas because he's got a good situation at SMU. Well, we would see how that plans out. The guy that I'm super intrigued with right now is John Sumrall. So for those who don't know John Sumrall, he is the head coach at Tulane. And the way people describe him to me is he's a dog. He's blue collar. He's everything that you want in a coach. And you can see some of the press conference and stuff. Just for a little bit of background on him. And I had we have our coaching search hot board. I had 20 names on there. I go back to look it up because I started it in 2023 when I actually thought this was probably going to happen with Sam Pittman. I started it in 2023, and he's the first name on there on that list. And there's a lot of names that I had to remove, like Mike Elko, Kurt Signetti, names that have gone on to bigger and better things from where they were back then. But Sumrall was on there. He was listed as the Troy coach. But obviously, like our coaching search hot board, you're going to find a snapshot of the coach, what he's done in his career, why he'd be a good fit, why he'd be a bad fit, what his salary is, what his buyout information is, if that's available. Most of the guys it is. But he was at Troy in 2022 and 2023. He took Troy, a program that wasn't doing great, to a 12-2 record, 7-1 in conference in the Sun Belt. In 2023, they went 11-2 and 7-1 in the Sun Belt. Then he took the Tulane job in 2024. Last year, they went 9-5 and 7-1 in conference. They're off to a 4-1 start and 1-0 in conference. Their only loss this year is to Ole Miss. They got beaten pretty good by Ole Miss, but obviously Ole Miss is well coached and got a lot of resources as well. He played at Kentucky. He played linebacker there. He's coached at Kentucky as a GA. He's coached. He was at Tulane as a co-defensive coordinator back in the day. He was associate head coach at Troy. He was a linebacker coach at Ole Miss in 2018. He was at Kentucky as inside linebackers coach after that in 2019-2020. Kentucky co-defensive coordinator, inside linebackers coach in 2021. Took the Troy job in 2022, 23, and 2024 to present. He is the Tulane head coach. Again, 36-10 head coaching record. He's the right age. He's 43. He's from Texarkana, Texas, so right on the border there with Arkansas. And people tell me that he'd be interested in the job. That's not direct from him, but people tell me he'd be interested and isn't really worried about whether he could win or not at Arkansas with the resources because he thinks he can win anywhere. I mean, he opened his Tulane press conference saying he thinks that they can win a national championship there. But from what people describe to me, the terms are blue collar, dog, obsessive about everything. He's going to be coveted when coaching search season really ramps up. If there's an opening at a lot of different places, which is possible in the SEC, he's going to be a guy that's coveted. So it would take a nice package. It would take a lot of support to get a guy like John Summerall. But he's kind of a guy that's been on my mind a lot, even back to his days at Troy, as a guy that could possibly be a good fit just because of what I hear about him kind of in the background. So I think, and kind of one of the questions I opened up with Hunter Yurachek, because this hasn't been talked about a lot, and I think that it makes it easier to have a coaching change at this time. But if you fire a coach and it's last year, and this is one reason we did not see a ton of coaching changes last year, and why we've seen so many already this year, and coaches being fired when they're being fired. The reasons behind this are, number one, they're moving that transfer portal window to January. We're going to find out next month when that is exactly, but it's January now, which means when you fire a coach on the 1st of December or whatever it is, November, whatever it is, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, that transfer portal window used to just pretty much open up, like December 5th or something. So unless you have a guy hired and the whole staff in order and everybody's taking the recruiting tests and all that kind of stuff, unless you have all that stuff happen, and half your team is going to enter the transfer portal, and you're going to lose all your players, all your good players. And people may say, well, these guys, let them walk. I get that. But there are guys I promise they want to keep on this roster. And you definitely want to have a new coach to have the opportunity to retain the players that he wants on the current roster. So in the past, if you did that, you not only lose all your players that are good, all the players that are out there in the transfer portal are already signing with somebody else. You hadn't even had an opportunity to tamper. They're already signing with somebody else. So there's no options out there. You are putting yourself in a situation where you're going to have a terrible season next year. And for Arkansas, the risk of that meant you could lose to Arkansas State, which is maybe something that gets your AD fired if you're Hunter Yurachek. You can't lose to Arkansas State, obviously, and have an awful season. So moving that makes it a lot easier. The other reason that you're seeing coaches fired when they are right now is because of that transfer portal window. The transfer portal window for Arkansas is open. Now, you're going to see tampering. There'll be tampering going on. Like, I talked to a guy that was at another school who had transferred to Arkansas and is no longer a player. And this was Friday. I talked to him before the Notre Dame game just about the situation and everything. He's like, man, at my school, when the coach was fired, at my previous school, when the coach was fired, the tampering was out of control. It was insane. Now, this player was a walk-on at Arkansas, but so he may not have experienced, but he's just talking about, like everybody else, what he saw. So there is going to be that going on. That's going on right now. There are players, being tampered with right now at Arkansas. But there's no place for them to go. There's no reason for them to just – and since you passed 5 games, all your players that you're playing right now, those guys, they can't redshirt themselves. So this is the window when you had to do it. We talked about that a lot. This is the window when it had to happen. So a lot of reasons that you would make that change right now, I think. So it's important to note. There are some interesting candidates, obviously, just some of the obvious ones that have been out there. Dan Mullen has been spoken about quite a bit. Mullen had one bad year at Florida. Somebody said he pissed off a couple of boosters or something, but his buyout's $3.5 million. The problem with he's making $3.5 million. The problem with Mullen is his buyout is $7 million because he just signed a new contract. Like guys that just signed with new schools, and this is something else to note, guys. Like if you want Matt Campbell at Iowa State, you should have gotten him when he was at Toledo. If you want Kurt Signetti at Indiana, you should have gotten him when he was at James Madison. Those are the times to get those kind of guys. Like you have to be. Jamie Chadwell's another interesting one. Like everybody's off Jamie Chadwell because he just went 8-4 last year, and they're just, I think, 1-4 this year. But this is a guy who has had success for so much success, but it's like now that he's not, just for a year, He had 11-1, 11-2, 9-3 his last 3 seasons at Coastal Carolina, a program that doesn't have a lot of success. Liberty was 13-1 his first year there in 2023. But right now he's 1-4, so everybody's like, eh. I mean, he's obviously a good coach. Jeff Traylor's another guy that's been mentioned a little bit. I don't want to go into too many names. Barry Odom's a name that's been mentioned. Kenny Dillingham is a long shot. We talked to our buddy Keith Grayson, and he's just like, I think he would come. I think that they're like, it would take a lot. He's earning $5.8 million. His buyout's only $5 to $6 million. It's the Arizona State head coach. Went to the college football playoff last year. But kind of the discussion was like, he's not thrilled with his NIL situation, even after going to the college football playoff. That's a long shot. People talked a lot about Fran Brown. Clark Lee's got a really big buyout at Vanderbilt. But you can check it all out at HawgSports.com. We got 20 names on there, and we're about to do some updating also. So a little bit of new information coming on that too. So we'll have Coaching Search Hot Board 2.0. I'm getting to you in just a second, Connor. A lot of decommitments have continued in the wake of the defensive firings, as you would expect. Most recently, J.J. Bush, Caleb Gordon. Those are 2 today. Danny West, guys, just, say a prayer for Danny West. He's about, he's on the cusp of writing 20-plus decommitment stories, because that's what happens when you have coaching changes. And then he's going to turn around and write 20 commitment stories right after this, after he's already written 27 for all the guys that have committed, and then the transfer portal stuff. So get some rest, Danny. It's coming at you. All right, let's go to our friend Connor Goodson. Want to get his thoughts on everything, and we're going to get to questions here in a little bit at the end of the show as well. Connor joins us on the Ozarks Go hotline. For those of you looking for internet service or looking at changing internet service because it hasn't been reliable, check out our friends at ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG, and you can reach out to them at 479-684-4900 and find out if they're available in your area. The best thing I always say about Ozarks Go, what is it, Connor?
You said the best thing about Ozarks Go, you've never had an issue and that they're local.
Yep. I never have unplugged my router.
Never.
One time in over 4 years of service with these guys, because the internet just works. So if I can say something better about them, I would. But to me, what's better than that? Several different tiers of internet, 479-684-4900, ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG. Go check them out. Connor, what do you think about everything that's developed so far?
Well, obviously you didn't have me on to talk basketball.
Yeah.
No, I think that obviously they made the right decision. We were all sitting up in the press box, and it just that feeling of just, you kind of knew what was happening. That avalanche there at the end of the second quarter,
yep,
from Notre Dame, it just felt like it was kind of the end. Like everything unraveled, let go of the rope, and Yurachek even said it today. It looked like the team kind of quit on him. And I don't disagree with any of that at all. And I think they made the right decision. I completely agree with doing it at this time and not waiting any longer. You get a head start on everything. It is going to be different having 2 to 3 months of this roller coaster of a coaching search compared to the weeks that you have usually in the off season. So I'm just ready to strap in and go for the ride over there on our message boards have already been insane. It's been fun to read and watch and entertaining, and obviously your coaching hot boards and incredible. A lot of good stuff in there that people need to go check out, and it's only going to get better and better as the weeks and months trug on.
We have to be entertained by this, and that's something that I always talk about with our coaching searches that we do. Like, we're going to put stuff out there. We're going to label it as rumor mill, but we're going to put that stuff out there, stuff that I hear, because I hear all kinds of stuff, like from people that, feel like they have information, and some of it pans out and some of it doesn't. But we're going to put it out there, label it as rumor mill. And even though, like last time, I remember, like, even though I said that and we had stuff labeled as rumor mill, I put something out and somebody on the radio is like, Trey Biddy reporting. And I was just like, no, it's just rumor mill, clearly labeled. But we're also going to put stuff that is more concrete. And we're going to make sure that it's labeled as such, because we do have some really good sources that are really tied in. We've guided people along pretty solidly. My first coaching search type of situation was back in, man, I can't even remember the year, 2005 or what year was that? 2000 and Matt Jones was at Arkansas, but it was when Nebraska came courting Houston Nutt. And that was my first ever experience. And I was just like on message boards and stuff back before all the social media stuff. And I was just like, man, this is insane. And we were, I don't even know if we had 1,000 subscribers back then. I was just in my like first year of doing this kind of stuff. Might have been 2003. But I was just in my first year, and I remember just like, wow, this is really insane and entertaining. And then I had another blip of one with the LSU and Houston Nutt briefly, and then a few years later, we had our first real coaching search. And I remember I would just stay up all night long. It was Bobby Petrino ended up being the hire, and I would just be up all night working and grinding and stuff. And I just remember the activity was insane. And then, of course, we had, the fallout with Bobby Petrino and, John L. Smith coming in and taking over. And then the coaching search with Brett Bielema, the firing of Brett Bielema, the coaching search with Chad Morris, the coaching search with Sam Pittman. So I've had a lot of them. And that doesn't even include the basketball coaching search that, which is a different type of deal. The football, and, we always talk, I know I'm taking up your time, Connor, but we always talk about, what kind of state this is and stuff. Like, man, the football coaching searches, there is absolutely nothing like it. And I wanted things to work out for Sam Pittman. I think he's a good guy. Things didn't. So it's time to move on and find out who this next coaching search, who this next coach is going to be. We have never had a coaching search that could go on for a couple months ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be very, very different. And talking about your experience with coaching searches, man, I kind of went through the ringer there with that Calipari coaching search. I'd been on board with you and Danny and everyone here for like maybe a month or two, maybe. And then I got thrown trial by fire with the Calipari stuff. And man, my notebook of stuff of learning experiences is extremely thick after that. And but you're 100% spot on. The football coaching search, the basketball stuff can't really hold a candle to that, especially in a state like this. People just can't get enough of it. But also to your point, Sam's a great guy. I think the comment that Yurachek made, the revelation that he met them kind of in the middle with his buyout at 62.5%, and
which is going to be a little, not including the retention payment, but yeah. It's going to be a little over $7 million.
Yeah, and it saved him, somewhere in the ballpark of $1.52 million, I think, overall. Which was, I think that was kind of a tell on his character that he is a great guy, and it just sucks that it didn't work out. Maybe if things were a little bit different, it did work out. But I just the hope and the optimism and just the opportunity, you talked about it a lot on your walk and talk. This is an opportunity, and I think a lot of fans are kind of looking at this from a more optimistic and hopeful point of view than we've seen in a long time here at Arkansas. And I think that there's something to that. Anytime you get a chance to start fresh and start new, there's always that hope that this is going to be the one that it's a home run.
Well, and the odds are that it won't be. Unfortunately, these coaches are hired to be fired. My daughter was asking me questions about it, and she was like, well, Dad, why don't you be the coach? It's like, well, first of all, it's a terrible lifestyle. But, I was like, where will we go when we get fired? Because these coaches are hired to get fired. And if you don't believe me, how did Jeff Lebby? Well, Jeff Lebby was an interesting situation because you did have Mike Leach, and then you had a guy there for a year, and they fired him, though. But Lebby, Clark Lee is at Vanderbilt because the guy before him got fired. Brent Venables at Oklahoma because the guy before him left for another job, which is the only other way that it happens, and it doesn't happen very often. Sam Pittman's there because the guy before him was fired. Hugh Freeze is at Auburn because the guy before him was fired. Billy Napier is at Florida, same deal. Mark Stoops at Kentucky has been there for a really long time. The guy before him was fired, but he's and people talk about his job security right now. Mike Elko at Texas A&M, Shane Beamer at South Carolina, Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, Josh Heupel at Tennessee, Brian Kelly at LSU, not Kalen DeBoer, Steve Sarkisian at Texas, and Kirby Smart at Georgia, who's also been there for a while now. But the guy before him lasted a good while too, Mark Richt. But most of these guys are there because the guy before them got fired. That's the nature of this business.
Yeah, that's just how it goes, and odds are that whoever Arkansas gets to replace, their tenure will come to an end, no matter how well they do. It'll probably
the question though is it 4 years or is it going to be 10 years?
Yeah, I think that honestly, if you go back to 2020 when that hiring process that yielded Sam Pittman, I think if you go back there and people tell you that it was 6 years for Sam Pittman, it's probably a little bit. Honestly, at the time, I probably would have been like, "Oh, I thought he was only going to be like a 4-year guy or a 3 or 4 year like."
Well, he
guy. But
again, like Sam, but he should have been a 4-year guy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the calendar. There's a lot of things working against Sam, and I know they sound like excuses, but there were some things working against him. The calendar, the schedule has obviously been very, it hasn't been a pretty schedule, and Arkansas always has tough schedules. But some of the calendars and some of the support, like Arkansas is going to be a budget football program until they start spending money. Everybody else in this conference is spending, everyone. And Arkansas, it feels like, there's always been like do more with less kind of approach, or, just a little bit of a budget approach. Hopefully what Hunter Yurachek is saying is accurate, and Arkansas will go out and make a hire, and we're going to see from the dollar figures like what Arkansas is willing to spend, what they're willing to do. But he kind of talked a big game today, I thought.
Yeah, he talked, and I think that was what he said was a big first step, especially after all the flack he caught from his comments at the Little Rock Touchdown Club, and even his attempt to clarify that wasn't met with a great positive response. But it's a big first step. But talk is talk. You got to walk the talk. You've got to walk the walk now after you do all of that. And you've got to actually show something tangible, that there are changes being made, and that the approach, specifically the approach and mentality of a lot of the administration and staff there needs to be a shift before this new guy comes in, because whoever it is, they're not going to succeed if the finances aren't there and you're not ready to support them like other coaches in this league are being supported. And so while it is a good first step, and it was nice to hear Hunter Yurachek, say that he has a plan and that their things are going to be, the gears are turning in a positive direction, you got to see some tangible results. And I think that that's where we're at. And obviously it's not going to be something quick. Like if this was in the offseason, like I mentioned a while ago, if this was in the offseason, it'd be a 2-3 week process at most, but we got 2 to 3 months. And so It's not going to be overnight, but you do need to see that things are changing and going in the positive direction that will set this new hire up to succeed for the long term.
Yeah. I'm the one doing the walking and talking, Connor.
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of interesting comments, a lot of time to get this right. This is the most important hire in football history at Arkansas, in my opinion, given the landscape of things, given how Arkansas just kind of messed it up a little bit on NIL and the support. It is. This is like, all right, if you're ever going to compete in the SEC, get this hire right. Get a guy in here that people can get behind and love. Like, this state needs a leader. And a lot of times people can agree or disagree with this, but there's not a bigger position in the state of Arkansas than the head football coach. There's just not. Like, who's the number one salaried employee in the state? It's going to be the football coach. I mean, there's a reason for that, because everybody in the state pays attention to that. I can ask people who, the lieutenant governor is, and they won't know, but I can say who's the head coach. They'll know. When I told my daughter that Houston Nutt called me, she asked me, like, who is that? And I go, oh, he used to be coach here. And she goes, is he famous? And I go, yeah. She goes, is he Arkansas famous, or is he famous everywhere? I was like, I think if you ask any college football fan, they'd know who Houston Nutt is. And everybody would probably know who Sam Pittman is, and he didn't even have success here. If you're a college football fan.
Yeah. Shout out to Houston Nutt. I have a picture of him whenever I was a little kid. We went to some tailgate around the Red White game, and I remember I had a picture with him and randomly enough Paul Eels from there.
Oh yeah,
both of them. But yeah, it was if you ask anyone in the state, I don't think that there's any name other than maybe Jesus and whoever the president of the United States is that is more known around the state than the Arkansas football coach. Those are probably the only two that are more.
I always tell Basil this. If you said to anybody in this state, almost, you know who David Basil is, and they would go, yeah. But you could step across this border into Oklahoma or into Missouri and say, who is David Basil? And nobody would know. I always tell him, like, he is the prime example of Arkansas famous.
And I think a lot of people misread that is that just because, it is Arkansas and it is a special state and a unique state. I mean, they don't understand like what it's capable of being. Like you touched on, I thought you made a great point. If you want the demographics, if you want the arts, the finances, the across a state or an area to change drastically, have a good football team. Yep. And what is crazy is that Arkansas is in such a unique spot compared to any other state, any other college football program. Whereas if you get this thing rolling, you have an entire state to back it up. I've talked about this with my dad before, even like back in the day. It's like we would miss out on a big recruit or something, and he'd get frustrated and talk to me about it. And it was like, I don't think that some of these kids understand that, like, if you come to Arkansas and you're a legend, it's a lot more it's completely different than if you're a legend in a different school, where it's like you could have a whole other career, like a David Basil, like Darren McFadden, Peyton Hillis. These guys are living legends, and people, like, you're set anywhere you go in the state. Like, you're set up to know that people are going to give you opportunities, and you're going to have a lot of goodwill built up in the fan base, and it's just unique to where you don't see it everywhere else. Even Mississippi, even Missouri, they have all of these other pro teams, college teams tugging at them, getting different attention here, and the finances are divvied up in those. And so at Arkansas, it's just the Hogs. And I know you mentioned a couple of shows ago that's like part of the reason that it is only Arkansas in town, and that could be a detriment. But I've always thought that that's what makes it special. That's why Arkansas is so special. And I think that if you can get it going here, I think that the whole country will start to understand why Arkansas is a special place, and that it won't be just looked down on and frowned upon like it is by a couple of national people right now.
Yep. All right, Connor Goodson joining us. You can follow him at Connor Goodson on X. HawgSports recruiting for basketball coverage, and a ton of football information as well. Appreciate you, Connor.
Thanks for having me on, Trey.
All right, everybody, Connor Goodson. And I think it's important to note also that Ozarks Go is not available in Connor's area, as you saw, which is, I think, very frustrating for him. So get down to Connor's area. Those of you who were in the suites on Saturday, you got treated with Blakeman's Prosecco. Cool bottle, great drink. And Blakeman's Fine Jewelry is also proud to be the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks, and are thrilled to support the team, and that includes providing beautifully crafted pieces for the U of A homecoming court. Built on tradition since 1987, Blakeman's has been Northwest Arkansas's trusted destination for exceptional jewelry and personalized service. Visit them at their brand new location, 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway, Rogers, Arkansas, 72758. Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, where Arkansas gets engaged. Good places to get engaged. Botanical Gardens, that's a nice place up here in Northwest Arkansas. Sassafras up at the church area up there. That's a really beautiful area. I know people have gotten engaged there, but now is the time to get engaged if you're thinking about popping the question, because she's going to want, late spring, early summer wedding, and you need to get on the ball now. So if you're thinking about popping the question, check out our friends over at Blakeman's at their new store, 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers. We want to go to questions. We've covered pretty much a lot of stuff. Guys, there's so much more stuff that we put on HawgSports that you can check out. Monday morning notes, just some of the things that I've been hearing lately. A lot of stuff going around out there. I guess I could go over my picks. Let's go. Let's do that, and then we'll get to the questions real quick. So we do the Bet Saracen Wager Wagon every Thursday where we do our picks. This past week I went 3-2. I'm 15-9-1, 15-9-1 overall, and 4-1 picking Arkansas games. This past weekend I lost the Mississippi State Tennessee game. I had Mississippi State minus 7.5, and Mississippi State won by 7, so I missed that one. It was 41-34. I had Georgia at minus 3 against Alabama. Georgia lost by 3, 24-21. So I lost those two. I won the Ole Miss LSU game. I had Ole Miss minus 1.5. They won by 5, 24-19. I picked Utah State, and they just barely covered it. It looked like it was going to be a little bit closer until late, but Utah State was plus 22.5, and they won by 20. They lost by 20, 55-35, so we won that one. And then I had Arkansas not covering against Notre Dame, which was only minus 4, and Notre Dame won by 43. I think I picked that one 38-28 Notre Dame. Well, obviously, it was a lot bigger points, but still won because it was minus 4. So we went 3-2. We are 15-9-1 overall and 4-1 picking Arkansas games against the spread. Go check out betsaracen.com or download the Bet Saracen app, Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. Let's see what we got for questions. We have got, watching right now, almost 4,000 people watching this live stream right now. Again, to you 4,000 people, there's 2 ways to sign up at HawgSports. You can sign up 2 months for $1. Again, making that as easy as possible for people to get all the information at HawgSports. We obviously have to charge something, but I want everybody on board and getting all the information, reliable, entertaining, accurate information. It's going to be such a roller coaster, guys. Every experience I've had, just the highs and lows. It's going to be this guy. It's not this guy now. It's this guy. And then, sometimes you end up like really excited about how things end up, and sometimes you have to talk yourself into it, and sometimes you might be disappointed, but it is always a roller coaster. So 2 months for $1. Those of you guys want to jump in for a longer term, you can sign up for 75% off. You do need the promo code on the 75% off deal. It's HAWG, Hog Search 75 altogether, not case sensitive. So 2 great ways to sign up. Go ahead and sign up after this show, after we get to these questions right here. All right. Does Bet Saracen have, this is from Hogvan 1994, does Bet Saracen have an over-under on the number of names that will be thrown out on this search? I'll set the line at 15. Like real names, like they've contacted this guy, or, people kind of saying their sources and stuff. Where do you have to put that exactly? C. Martin 16 says, in your opinion, Trey, who do we get as head coach that pushes this team forward to the right direction? What do you like to see out of a future head Hog? What I want to see, and it's hard to say the name, okay, but I want to see a guy that has had success as a coach. And there's some other, Will Stein at Oregon, the offensive coordinator, there's intriguing. Schumann at Georgia is intriguing, defensive coordinator there. But to me, I want to see a guy that has done it and had success as a coach. I don't want to see a guy who's learning on the job how to be a head coach. Well, we just saw that. It felt like Sam Pittman was every year is like, I learned to do this. I want to see a guy that's confident, that's a leader, that maybe I'm a little bit afraid of. I wouldn't mind seeing that I'm a little afraid of. I don't mind like going into a press conference and him scoffing at a question that I have or something. That's fine. I want to see a guy who is somebody that this state really rallies around. You're never going to get everybody. I mentioned John Sumrall because I see that kind of potential with him. He seems like a guy that is very matter of fact, a guy that people will follow, a guy that is hard on people, that people love him for it. Like that's one of Sam Pittman's biggest downfalls was he was, and maybe that was justified, but he was way scared about people entering the transfer portal. We saw that in how they practiced in the spring, how they would put players in positions that they didn't necessarily earn because Arkansas is worried that they're going to transfer. And I'm not saying he was trying to be anybody's friend. I just think he was worried about that roster, worried about attrition. And you can't coach that way. And unfortunately, that's the way things are right now in college football. But you have to push people, and you have to You have to be strong and forceful. There was a video with Lane Kiffin where I think a player recorded his conversation. The guy didn't show up for a couple of days and didn't reply to him. There's a video of a running back. Oh, who was the running back at Alabama? I can see his face. Feel like his name starts with a D. But anyway, something happened and he was late to a meeting. And he was telling people, it's like, hey, I'm going to be late. It's like, oh God, I'm going to be late. The worst thing you can do in front of Nick Saban, right? So he shows up, he sneaks in and gets in there. And the week goes through. Week passes by. Saban doesn't really say anything to him. And they get up to, I think maybe the day before the game, he's like, Saban's like, hey, how you doing? All this kind of stuff. Talks to him. He's like, and by the way, you're not starting today. You're going to be like the third running back in or something. And he walks by and he goes, I know you think you're being punished for being late, but what is disappointing to me is you're one of the team leaders and you never came to me. You never came to me and talked to me about it. God, that's leadership right there. And that was like, this guy was talking about, this is first learning, like the first time he realized like football can teach him about something in life. That's the kind of guy that you need as a coach. Guys that take that kind of approach, guys that are hard on you, who love you, like that tough kind of love. That's what you need in a football coach. Somebody that the players can rally around, but this state looks at and is proud of, that kind of guy. Somebody, I want to see, like, you're not going to win every game. Like, people are going to be pissed every time you lose a game, but you're not going to win every game. But how about when you do lose, you feel like they fought and it's just like, man, that's tough. Or maybe like the other guy, they made a play. Not like, well, Arkansas blew coverage and fumbled the ball 5 times. That's why they lost. There's different ways of losing, and losing, yeah, it shouldn't be something that you just take, but like you play in Alabama and you lose by 3 points, and Georgia fans are just like livid over there, and it's like, come get some of this, man. That's who I'd be looking for as the coach. I want like somebody that I'll look at and maybe I'm a little afraid of. I'm not afraid of having that guy in that media room, You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about though, like somebody that just has a certain air about them. When they walk into a room kind of guy. Whiskey Drunk says, based on Hunter's comments regarding the criteria he is using in his search, who are the top 3? A lot of questions about who are the top 3 that fit that bill. I mentioned Sumrall. Top 3 that fit that bill. I would have to look at the search board. See who all I put down. Sumrall. I'm intrigued with Ryan Silverfield at Memphis. I know Memphis has had a lot of success with other coaches also, and he's kind of like the next in line, but he still has them playing well, and it's not like the roster is just like there's a lot of continuity, a lot of carryover. There's a lot of people talk about Alex Golish, who was born in the Soviet Union, by the way. I wouldn't hate Jamie Chadwell. I like Jeff Traylor a lot. I'm not sure that he's got him right now to a point like, there was a time where, they were 11-2 and 12-1. People, I think, will still associate him with Chad Morris, even though those guys butted heads the entire time. He was not an on board. Kenny Dillingham is the long shot. Fran Brown, I think, is an interesting one to keep an eye on. The guy at Syracuse, he went 10-3 last year. This is a program that he's off to a 3-2 start right now, so it's not just like outstanding, but he was secondary coach at Georgia, and he's at a school that hadn't won more than 6 games the previous 5 seasons before his arrival. And then he gets there and only won one. They'd only won 10 games one time since 2002. His first year there, they won 10 games. That's something that jumps out to me, something that is intriguing to me. There are other names out there. We've got guys from the NFL, guys who are assistant coaches, guys on the Power 5, guys on the G5. We've got several different guys to look at. And we're going to dive deeper into them and figure out who the best fits are. Big Sugar 69. What is that? Nice. What is that? What is it that other programs from relatively impoverished states are doing in NIL that Arkansas is not? Well, according to Hunter Yurachek, they're going to be fine in NIL. And again, it's not just so much about how much money you raise, it's about how much you can get approved, how much you can get through the clearinghouse to accept them. Is it clearinghouse? That word? The committee, whatever it is. How much you can get them to approve. It's not just so much about how much you can raise, how much can you get them to approve. And hopefully they're going to be pretty strict about it, because I would really like to see Arkansas and college football get away from this pay-for-play model that we are in. Like, you can't convince me that some offensive lineman who is not a good speaker or anything from high school is going to be worth $1 million in NIL. Maybe he's worth it in revenue sharing. That's not NIL. NIL is this player can help us sell this product. He can be a spokesman for us. He can, you know what I mean? That's what NIL is supposed to be. But under this, it's pay for play. It's the guise of NIL. So if NIL gets to be an actually NIL, maybe we have something there. Pittsburgh Squealer says, from what you have gathered, are boosters, BOT, pushing for Lashley harder than any other? There are some. I have heard one booster say that they have the same that said buying out Sam Pittman's not going to be an issue. Also said we have the money to go to make a run at Rhett Lashley. He says, I would drag my ass through broken glass to get something wrong. Live and Guy says, in your opinion, is Coach Bobby Petrino the type of head coaching candidate you see to rebuild the program the way we discussed at the Walk and Talk sponsored by Sutherland's? Would you be too divisive? Would it be too divisive a hire? I mean, if he wins, then he wins. If if Bobby Petrino wins while he's here, and we see something that, like, man, these guys are following him. Their support will swell under Bobby Petrino if, like, he turns things around. It's going to be very difficult for him to get them to, like, bowl eligibility at this point. If he were to do that, it would be really hard to me to, like, deny him as a viable candidate. And a lot of people have a lot of member berries about Bobby Petrino. I always compare it to, like, Marilyn Monroe. Like, Marilyn, passed away in her prime. And so what we remember about Marilyn was, beautiful, elegant lady. There's no pictures of her, past any of that. Not that you can't be beautiful and elegant in your older years. I don't mean that, but I'm just trying to make a point, a comparison. And Bobby Petrino, he was like, how many coaches out there in their tenure winning 11 games and then just disappear from you? And that's what happened with Petrino. So our idea of him is a guy who is basically unstoppable as a head coach. So we'll see. He is older. He's 63 now. I mean, that's up there. But there have been other coaches that have had a lot of success at that age. Nick Saban had, Bill Snyder had. There's plenty of examples of guys that have had success. But I think the average coach across college football is like 48.5 years old or something. Frank Broyles used to say you want a coach's best 10 years. To me, like, a sweet spot for hiring a guy who is an up-and-comer, who's like, this guy's got it. The sweet spot to me is about 40. Generally, it's give or take. There are guys that have had a lot of success at 36. But to me, it seems to be about 40, 42. And, upwards of maybe 50 for a guy starting out at your school, if you want to get, like, a great 10 years out of them. Did your conversation with Houston Nutchanger confirm any of your core beliefs? No, I mean, we just talked. There was a lot of remember when, and, I told him, like, I still quote him and stuff. Like, we hadn't talked, guys. We have not talked since soon after he left Arkansas. That we haven't not talked in 17 years. So, but he still had my number and called me. I thought it was pretty cool to hear from him, because I always do quote Houston. That ball don't bounce straight up and down. Water you, Gatorade you, That's what he'd always say to players, like talking about. Dal Hawkins told me one time whenever he runs into like another player like Darren McFadden, they'll come up to, one of them will go, water you, another one will go, Gatorade you. That just means like we do all this stuff for you, and this is the effort you give. Water you, Gatorade you. That ball don't bounce straight up and down. And I talked to him about, how he used to always say, like, if we can hold them to 27 points, we're going to win the game. That used to always be kind of a strategy with him. We want to hold them to 27, we're going to win the game. Goshen Hog says, can you discuss the potential timeline of what it looks like to possibly lock up a hire before we have competition? That's going to be difficult, but you do get the head start. You're going to hire a search firm. So I've seen people confused on what a search firm is, like thinking it's somebody else to go out and do the job for you. They're the intermediary between you and that coach, okay? Like it's a way to keep confidentiality. Like, we're going to follow this coaching search and we're going to hear stuff that's going on. The guy, when we find out who the actual hire is going to be, it's going to happen about, like, we're going to find, like, there's going to be stuff like maybe this guy you thought you had a good chance at takes another job or something like that. That kind of stuff will happen. But we're going to find out who the guy is the day before he's hired. It'll be the day before, like, it comes out. Hunter Yurachek will probably release something with smoke coming out, but that's probably how it'll work. And that's because, like, when we did the Chad Morris, like, I broke the Chad Morris hire. The reason that I was able to break that is because there was a search committee. There was people on the board of directors who were heavily involved, all that kind of stuff. Sam Pittman, I had that. I feel like me and Mike Irwin put that out about the same time that Sam Pittman was going to be the next hire. So that stuff is going to generally come out hours before it's official, generally not more than a day before it's official. So there's a roller coaster to go through before all of that. But yeah, you hire a search committee to do that kind of contacting, to vet coaches also. Like Jeff Long, I'm pretty sure, I believe, like, didn't hire, a search firm. And may have been one reason, he ended up with, what's his name, former LSU coach, the Mad Hatter. Lord Porter 95 says, I think Meth Zoo has a state tax that goes into that amount. I think he's answering a question. Dino Nugs. We need some Dino Nugs, exactly. You got the place that delivers the Dino Nugs, the place that sells the Dino Nugs, and the place that produces the Dino Nugs, all up in this area. Petrino is meeting with the team right now, 2:30. In your opinion, and based off your experience covering Petrino coach teams in Arkansas in the past, how tight is the puckering in those chairs right now? In all seriousness, Petrino, like, when he speaks, he's actually usually, he's pretty calm. But when he gets out on the field, like, it's a different intensity. It's a different attitude. And Petrino is a different kind of guy. And I've mentioned this before, but you have to be a little crazy to be a coach. And if you can even say that anymore, I don't know, but like I'm like Nick Saban, like for all Nick Saban's qualities and stuff, he kind of have a hard time, like, looking people in the eye, and, Lane Kiffin is super awkward in person. He's great behind a keyboard and stuff, but he's an awkward in interviews and things like that. Petrino is so, like, he likes to have his finger on everything. He is a control freak. Eric Musselman is obsessive and insane. He is. Sam Pittman, I think, maybe too normal of a guy. You have to have a certain kind of something, got to be a little bit off to be a great coach. You look at all the great coaches. Is there anybody that's just like, that guy's normal? Think about it. You have to have some kind of, like, disorder in a lot of ways. I hope that's not coming off as insensitive to anybody, or, I have plenty of my own disorders. I'm obsessive compulsive, like literally. I have issues where, like, I'm an insane double checker. But I really think you have to have those types of qualities. I like things a certain way. Whoever the coach is needs to like you can't stand it. Like I know that there are qualities with me that like the reason I'm so obsessive about some of my stuff, like guys, I almost like people joke about Nick Saban eating the same thing every day because he doesn't have to think about it. I do that. I eat pretty much the same thing every day for lunch. I have a bowl of fruit, usually blackberries, blueberries, grapes, a few grapes. I don't like to put a lot of grapes in there. Maybe some strawberries, maybe some kiwi, maybe some mango. Pretty much the same revolving fruits. I have a bowl of nuts. I like to put some pumpkin seeds in there. I like a little dried fruit in there, whether it's apple chips or mango slices, goji berries, pumpkin seeds. I mean, I have those two things, and I have a bowl of soup. I love soup. That is my lunch during the weekdays, basically every single day. It's that kind of combination of things. And I see logic in coaches who have that kind of attitude too. It makes sense to me. The process that I have of locking the house down, checking the stove, I have to take a mental image. Like a permanent mental image of the stove before I go to bed. Make everything is off. Maybe even touch each knob. I know it's crazy. It's just who I am. I know I have issues. So I'm just saying, like, to point all that kind of stuff out. I'm not trying to be insensitive to anybody that has issues. We all have stuff. I think a coach needs it to have it on a very intense level to be a good coach. Hogzilla says T Breezy. I never really had a lot of nicknames, but every time I get on here, it's like T Bizzle, T Money. I used to be like, people would call me T Diddy, which that didn't work anymore. But it usually is always Biddy, so there was never really a need because Biddy kind of fits for it. T Breezy. What would it take for a new coach to find success here? How long we gone? 107. We got almost 5,000 people watching now. What would it take for a coach to find success here? First of all, be that kind of guy that I'm talking about. Secondly, money. A lot of people have money out there. There are plenty of coaches that don't have success with it. So it takes both of them. You have to have the money. You have to have support. You have to have a coach who fits that bill, what I'm talking about. JLee95 says, you've got a better idea of the climate on the Hill than a lot of people. Thanks. If they were to decide Sumrall as the guy, how confident would you be that they'd go into a full bidding war if other jobs open up? That's what we're going to find out. If Arkansas is going to be a also-ran type of program, then they're going to have also-ran type of results. We're about to find out how serious this state, and it's not just Hunter Yurachek. And again, I don't want to tell people how to spend their money, but it's everybody's involvement. Student section. I would like to see Arkansas start employing some stuff with like even students like getting credits and stuff to go to the game, because there's not a section, and maybe that's part of that. There's so many students from out of state now. But to me, I hate seeing that the first section to empty out is the student section. It's the first one. And those aren't bad seats, but it's the first one. And it's not every student, obviously. But, man, when I went to school, things have changed now. Arkansas was 14,000 people. The stadium did not have the upper deck on the east side. It was just on the west side. And obviously not the north end zone or the south end zone. But when I went to school there, I feel like the student section was almost as big, and there were 14,000 students. I was a Phi Delta. We had 32 guys in our pledge class, and I'm trying to remember, but I think we had one guy from Oklahoma, two guys from Texas, one guy from Dallas area, one guy from Houston area, and everybody else was from Arkansas. Everybody else was from Arkansas, and we would go to every game. I got kicked out of one game. I've been kicked out of a football game at Arkansas. I got kicked. My buddy, we got two of my buddies the student section was full, and we go find an area in the regular seats that's open, and we go sit down. I can't remember what game it was. I think it was Auburn one year, and we go sit down in there, and one of my buddies lit up a cigarette, and everybody's booing and yelling at him. He puts the cigarette out. Same buddy is mixing a drink. He's got a drink that he's mixing, and he's got one of those big cups, and I mean dumps it. It goes out of his hand and dumps it all over this lady's back. And one of my other buddies was a former walk-on player there. He walked on for like a year, and this guy's like, I'll take you down to that field and beat your ass. And my buddy's like, I used to play on that field. And next thing I know, there's police right there, and they're telling us, get the hell out of that aisle. Come over here. And they say, we can either go to jail or you can get out of here. So we left, and that was very early in the game. I've been kicked out of a game in Razorback Stadium before that actually happened to me. So, and rightly so. I wasn't even I didn't even do anything. I just happened to be with them. But yeah, we all got thrown out of that game. We were happy to leave versus go to jail. I was a kid too once. Man, I've got another buddy. One time he's trying to sneak alcohol. This kid in college, he comes up with this genius idea. He's going to fill up these Ziploc bags with bourbon. Okay. He's going to fill these Ziploc bags up with bourbon. And he's going to put the bags under his armpits and tape it around his body. So he's got this creative idea to get bourbon in there. Hog hat, by the way, shout out Michael Ibsen, was invented to sneak a fifth in to Razorback game. That's how it was originally invented. But anyway, my buddy's got Ziploc bags of bourbon under his arm. Of course, he gets in there. It's crowded. People bump into him. Bourbon armpits. Just his arms go like this, and just bourbon squirting everywhere out of his arms. Those are the days. It's fun being a college kid. Why would anybody want to rush out of college? Like, you ask most people, when was your favorite time in life? I mean, obviously there's people who, I hear a lot of people say their 50s. The 50s are the glory years for them. But you'd be hard pressed to hear anybody say college wasn't also right there with them. And I see all these kids like rushing to get out of college and stuff. There was an LSU offensive lineman who's talking about like, yeah, he could have gone pro. He's like, but I love college. I mean, think about it. Like, you're a big man on campus. You could go to NFL and stuff and like, sit on the bench. Nobody even knows who you are. You could be a guy who's not even an NFL player, but a starter in college, who everybody knows, big man on campus. And hell, college is fun. It just is. Okay. Bidding war. Yeah. Okay. Where are we at? T Bizzle now. I'm T Bizzle. According to West Hog 21. Are you guys buying the next coach will be given the resources to succeed? We're going to find out. I mean, he talked about John Calipari and doing the same kind of thing with football. I've never heard him talk like that before about football. So not just to expand his sport path or salary pools, but sufficient NIL to compete with schools. He says NIL is in order. He says they're going to get the support staff. He says they're going to get the advanced scouting. All of these things are in order. And why should the next coach not be John Sumrall? I can't think of a reason other than like he's not a sitting Power 5 coach who's had a bunch of success, So he's not that. He's a guy that's at Tulane, but he has experience in the SEC footprint, obviously. Can you talk about the importance for us with Auburn, LSU, Wisconsin, Kentucky, et cetera, to do enough to not have an opening? Can you talk about the importance for us, for Auburn? Oh, for them not to have an opening? Yeah, I mean, Auburn would be the school. LSU would be the school. Kentucky would be a school to be concerned. Sumrall played at Kentucky. I feel like there's a chance that some of these places, Wisconsin would be a school, but like Auburn and LSU, those two places might view their job as, somebody who wants to get a sitting head coach from another program. That's what LSU did, Notre Dame, Auburn. I mean, Hugh Freeze just had that background, I guess. He was at Liberty, but, Brick Tamadad says, what amount of money is sufficient to put us in the top 20 for NIL? Well, I don't know what that is. I don't have that figure. Again, it's not just about having the NIL money now. It's about having a way to make sure it gets pushed through and is approved through the clearinghouse. Hopefully. NEA Hog 12 says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much can the common fan donating 10 to 50 a month make? Is it simply about big money, or do we desperately? So the reason Arkansas did the Drive for 5, which was trying to get 5,000 fans to donate $50 a month, right? That was the plan. And the reason that they did that is because that's about what at the time Ole Miss had going. Okay. So if you had that many fans, what is that, $3 million a year just in NIL? If you had that many fans donating $50, and that's at least $50, some would donate more. That's a pretty significant chunk that you could donate to NIL. That's why. And I make the point too, like I bring up lawyers because just that's a easy group to look at and say, well, these people make, what's a lawyer in Arkansas average? A couple 100,000, 200, maybe a little bit more. But those are people that are, doing well. They're maybe not, some of them are, but not all of them are just like elite rich, but they're doing well. And there's 7,000 lawyers in Arkansas. And I would bet a lot of them are Razorback fans. Like if you can get half of them, 3,500 of them to donate, $10,000. So, you know what I mean? Like looking at things like that. And I've heard people say stuff like, yeah, my buddy, is big, big time rich. And I'm kind of rich, but like they were talking to him, and this is like, when One Arkansas was a thing, they're talking to him and, dining him, and I'm just kind of standing over there. And you know what? I would give $10,000, but I'm just like, they don't even look at me. Like, I feel like a problem with One Arkansas is they were set up for big time donors and stuff and not, the everyday guy. Live Easy says, hey, Trey, thanks for your hard work. In my opinion, I would prefer to get a top coordinator at a major program, Georgia, Bama, Texas, Oregon, or Ohio State, instead of a head coach at a small school with success. What are your thoughts on this? Well, what if he's been a coordinator at a notable program also? Maybe that's something to consider. But I want a guy that has some success as a head coach that isn't like just figuring things out. But I don't think that Arkansas can afford that. Although there are coaches that do that all the time. Levy's having success at Mississippi State now. He went through that 1 year that we talked about that's very difficult. And, people can point to Cignetti and stuff, but for the most part, the coaches that, have had change over that first year have had a lot of struggles. Maybe that'll change now with the transfer portal moving a bit. SWA Hog says, I think this will be the last one. SWA Hog says, Hunter Yurachek mentioned advanced scouting people of times in the presser and even talked about a whole department dedicated to it. Did that just come out of the blue, or has it been other schools have that? Arkansas is limited in areas with support staff and, salaries and all that kind of stuff. You get budget results when you spend a budget amount. And I hate saying that because I'm basically saying to other people who have deep pockets, you need to spend money on Arkansas. And that's really not my place to do, except for to say, like, we're counting on you. We need you. Like, it's not my place to tell anybody to spend money, but I'm just saying, like, we need those people. We need those people to step up and help us out. Yeah, maybe they'll build a statue of you. I don't know. Maybe you'll be always remembered. I don't know what the benefit of you is it for you, because I don't have that kind of money, but help us out. That's it. That's all I got to say. 2 months for $1 right now at HawgSports. It's an easy entry for you. Come check out what we got going on. Enjoy it. Ride the roller coaster. It's the best place to ride the roller coaster. I promise you're going to enjoy it. 2 months for $1. And that's kind of how we get you. We have a lot of people. There's people on here right now that like posted on the message board like from 6 years ago. Yeah, I signed up a few years ago on your coaching search deal, and I'm still here because I'm addicted. I love it. 75% also if you want to do the $30 for the entire year, you can sign up for the 75% off plan. But either one of those are great. For 75% off, you need Hawg Search, HAWG Search 75. Altogether, not case sensitive. 75, not 75 spelled out. And yeah, 2 months for $1. You don't need any promo code. It's just set up there for you. Go to HawgSports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and sign up. All right. Thanks to Connor Goodson for hopping on. Appreciate all of you guys for your comments and activity. We've got over 5,000 people watching this show live right now, just watching live. So appreciate all of you. Sign up at HawgSports if you haven't done so already. Appreciate our sponsors, of course. Go check out thecrainteam.com if you're interested in a vehicle. All right, everybody. We will be back with you guys on Thursday. Talk a little bit more about everything that's happened. I'm sure there'll be plenty of more information going on. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.